there are some people that are going to meet this challenge head on, and they're going to, teach their students, they're going to adopt their curriculums, they're going to retrain themselves as professionals. And then there's the people that aren't, and there's going to be a big pay differentiation.
Let's go. Yeah, make it look easy.
The goal of this podcast is to share original insights and conversations on the habits, mindsets, and strategies of elite performers that produce exceptional results. Let's go.
Jessica, it's such a pleasure having you on the show. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Hello, Ryan. Here I
am. In looking through your history, what you've done, you've taken on a bunch of different roles, big projects. What was it that initially attracted you to entrepreneurship? We have a lot of entrepreneurs on the show. I think everyone kind of comes at it from different angles. But there are a lot of people who listen, for context to you on the question, who listen to this show that I know are considering entrepreneurship, that have maybe even fairly successful by some metrics, careers in other places, but they have that itch. And obviously entrepreneurship's been an enormous part of your life for more than 20 years now. What was it that brought you to entrepreneurship?
Well, I was raised by an entrepreneur. My father was actually in the insurance business. He had a private investigative surveillance company.
Okay.
And he had, at the time he sold it, he had 200 employees, 75 vans, and he investigated workers' compensation insurance fraud.
Wow.
So since I was 5 years old, I was around cameras. He got me one of the first Apple computers. And so I sort of grew up and transitioned from doing more like surveillance kind of stuff like he did to marketing and fundraising and so raising money, for businesses and for nonprofits.
Wow, that's incredible. So did you start your own business? Like you just saw an opportunity and said, hey, I can take these skills I've learned, working with your father and take them into your own thing?
I moved down to Miami and I had a real job for exactly 365 days. And during that time, I built a website. I got some clients. I figured out how to transition in my income. And so when I was 25 was the last time I've had like an official job, and I'm 44. So yeah.
Why do you think that transition is so hard for people?
Well, it's because you trade one devil for another. If you have a job, you hate your boss. But if you don't have a job, you have to force yourself to do sales calls and breathe down your own neck. So, I think it takes a tremendous amount of self-motivation to be an entrepreneur, because there are so many hardships and so many difficulties and so many challenges. It's like, nonstop problem solving. And if you don't have the energy for that, or if you can't self-motivate to get through these problems, then you're not going to last, in the long run.
Yeah. I find with a lot of entrepreneurs, especially early on, like purpose and meaning are really what push them over the edge, right? If you just have a good idea, we all have good ideas, and good ideas hit us, bad ideas hit us all the time. Sometimes bad ideas, but it feels like when someone actually makes that move, whether it's starting a plumbing business or becoming an online coach or developing a product or whatever they ended up choosing, there's some sort of purpose or meaning behind it. One, I guess, do you believe that tends to be the catalyst? And two, what was that early for you?
Well, my dad told me when I was a little girl, he's like, whenever you want to start a business, I'll support you. And so it took me a long time. It took me until I was 21 years old to really I was like, you know what, if I had to work, I would love to get paid to travel around the world and make short videos for companies about the work that they're doing all around the world. So I've been to 66 countries was the last time I counted. And most of those countries have been inside of like some kind of photojournalism project.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty incredible. What is that like? So I've traveled most of North America, including the Caribbean. And I've been to 43 states outside of Alaska and Hawaii being the two big misses that I just have not been able to get to yet. What is that international travel like? What is it like running a business when you're on the road as much as you would have to be able to reach that many countries?
Well, I'll never forget when my graphic designer many years ago, decades ago, I wanted to put my cell phone on my business card. She's like, well, you live in Florida, but you have a Chicago cell phone. You can't have your cell phone. People think you're in Chicago. No. I'm like, listen, it's the future that people are going to put their cell phones on their business cards, not just like their Google landline number, whatever you fake, right, on the internet to have like a local phone number. And so I've really been running a online business since the beginning. A lot of my resources have been either not necessarily in the same town as me, or they have been overseas. So I work with a lot of teams. I've employed hundreds of people in the past. One of my favorite things I use to employ people is actually called Fiverr.com. Have you heard of Fiverr.com?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yep. I use I have I think I have 186 gigs I've done over Fiverr over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But no, I really think that people had like their aha work virtual moment when COVID happened. And I feel like I had that moment happen a long time ago, especially if you can, I normally even live in Miami, but I'm at my parents' cabin in Wisconsin, and we have, great internet here. So I get to spend a couple months up here during the summer, run my whole business here, do my sales calls, talk to my clients, work on my school. I'm in a doctoral program. So all this stuff I'm doing virtually and have been for a long time.
What part of Wisconsin?
Minocqua.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I love Wisconsin. I have done a lot of speaking in Wisconsin. I've been to Sheboygan, Madison, the Dells, Milwaukee, obviously. I went to, I don't even know what it's called, but it used to be like a Playboy like thing. It's like this big complex, and it used to be owned by Hugh Hefner, and then they he sold it, and now it's like this big, and it's like in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, but it's all beautiful. And I find the people of Wisconsin to be funny and inviting and like down to earth. And I love every chance I get to go to Wisconsin. It's a great place.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you have this entrepreneurial spirit, you make it happen, you execute, you've been tremendously successful. And then you decide to start a nonprofit. Talk to me about that transition. Maybe what was the motivation? What did you see going on? And what did that look like?
Well, as a video producer for a long time, since 2005 was the first time we did this, but I recognized a long time ago, 20 years ago, that donating my services as a video producer, like I could make a lot more money if I like worked for Vimeo or, did 100 other things to tap into my skill as a digital marketer. But instead I've chosen, even through my corporation, Two Pair Productions, I work with nonprofits. And I really found out very early on the power of video for these nonprofits. We were in a leadership course called the Self-Expression and Leadership Program. And we had to do like a community project. And so my dad was like, you know what, I'm going to go to Thailand and film this footage for this nonprofit. And then he brought the footage back to me, and I edited all the footage together into like a 5-minute video. And we sent it over to them on like a DVD. And they reported back to us. They called us a couple days after we had sent it to them, and they said that the whole office had watched it, and the whole office had cried because they had never even been to Thailand themselves. The staff people, they had never seen these kids on the street. They had never seen these kids like huffing glue on the corner. And so my dad was capturing all these images, and they were just blown away, and they had never had a tool like that to communicate what they were doing in the country of Thailand, helping these young kids who were at the mercy of sex trafficking and prostitution and addiction and homelessness and domestic violence and all of this kind of stuff. So I realized how powerful it is for these organizations. And so, at first we would just donate our services here and there, but as we got a reputation for doing this, we had the demand of people asking us for free pro bono services just far outweighed my capacity. Unfortunately, I don't have like a big family trust fund, to just be doing this project left and right. So, but I eventually we created this nonprofit about 10 years ago because we wanted to have a formal application process where nonprofits would apply once a year. And that's what I'd love, if anybody has a takeaway from this recording, our nonprofit Eyes on Your Mission has a grant where other nonprofits can apply to get free video production services donated to them, meaning they get a video shoot donated, 1-day video shoot anywhere in the world. We edit it down into like a 3 to 5 minute sizzle reel type video. And we do that through Eyes on Your Mission, which is my little hat. That was my reminder for the day to do my pitch for Eyes on Your Mission. But we love hearing from nonprofits who have really worthy stories and who really want to tell a story that they've never told before, maybe. That's really what I'm most excited about these days. And if I had a magic wand, I would just, sit around and probably do like 50 of these projects a year. But we have to be sort of discerning and make some difficult decisions because the demand for it is a lot higher than the supply.
Yeah. And guys, I know a lot of you listening are either part of nonprofits or sit on nonprofit boards or have influence in nonprofits. And there is no better way to tell your story than video. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity. The episode will certainly be out before July 18th, what I think you said was the deadline to apply. So we want to make sure that if you have interest, I'll have all the links in the show notes as well. If you guys don't forget or if you forget the URL, so wherever you're listening, whether it's YouTube or on the audio podcast, just go down to the description and there'll be a link over, and you guys can learn more and apply if you think it's something that you want to do. I think, that story about Thailand and about the individuals who are actually doing the work, getting to actually see the people that they're impacting, that is what makes video so powerful. I have used video tremendously in my career as well. I'm not formally trained. I'm YouTube trained, but it delivers a message in a way, especially if you're thoughtful about how you do it, that I just don't think there is another medium, oftentimes not even an in-person, maybe if you were there on the streets, but outside of being there in person, even if you're hearing a keynote from someone who's been there, if you can't see it, rewind it, listen to it, share it in that format, it just doesn't make the same impact. So let's say you come across an organization that you feel has a great mission, has a great message, but maybe they're hesitant to create video. And I see this all the time in the small business community as well. Organizations that are doing tremendous work and helping people, they're like so hesitant to put what they do on camera. And I think that's changed a lot since the pandemic, but it still is around. How do you start to change that mindset? How do you convince somebody who has a great story or great message that getting it on film I guess we don't call it film, but digital film, and getting it out onto the internet so that people can connect with it is an important thing to do?
Well, there's nothing like human connection. Even as, I don't know who's listening to this recording on YouTube. I can't see their eyes, but I can see Ryan's eyes. And after this moment, Ryan and I will have connected in a way that makes us feel like we're friends, even though it's only video that we're seeing of each other. But that human to human connection is so important. And especially one of the things you talk about a lot, Ryan, which I love, I watched some of your podcasts on AI. And especially with AI coming out, at first I thought that it was going to sort of like replace what I did, or maybe decrease the need for what I did, which is like these short documentaries. And in reality, with people now doubting what's real and what's not real, I mean, my documentary services and the capacity to tell stories that are authenticated real, that's a whole new level of important now.
Yeah.
And I think that it continues, just when you think it's like plateaued, then it continues to get more and more important.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a friend of mine. He's a very successful speaker, and we were just catching up and chatting about what was going on with him and whatever. And, he had a few concerns around AI and its impact on his business. And I said, I completely disagree with that. To me, I said, Bud, I think that what AI does is it makes in-person events paramount, because now if I'm, there will come a day in the not too distant future. I mean, there are people who are close right now. I have a friend who's working with a company that creates a virtual you, like a on your website. There's like a everything you've created, every video you've done, every article you've written, it like captures it all and uses, AI and ChatGPT-4 to then create like basically a you wiki with an avatar that's like talking to people. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I think that's cool and it's valuable and it certainly has its place. But how do I know? Like, there will be a time in the future that you're watching a video on YouTube and you won't know whether that's Jessica or Jessica's avatar, who has been prompted through AI to move certain ways, talk in your voice, use your cadence, your tone, your vernacular, and then literally knows everything you've ever put on the internet and can regurgitate it. And I don't know if that's you or not. However, in person, if you're on stage or at a mastermind or an event or whatever it is, I know it's you and I'm getting this original experience. And I'll give you one more little anecdote that I think puts a pin in this is Alicia Keys did the Super Bowl this year. And she had a moment where she missed a note. She small, tiny, didn't impact the performance. Alicia Keys is amazing. She did a great job. But there was a small little thing, which happens in live performances. If anyone goes to concerts, the song never sounds exactly the same as it does on the radio when you're in person. And that's the beauty of it, right? The beauty of being live and there with someone is not the perfection of the performance. It's the little nuanced things, and I don't even want to call them mistakes, that create a unique experience. And I feel like we're going to see this wave of AI come in, and obviously people are going to adopt it, and certainly it'll have an impact. But I do see a counter swing back to sharing space, breathing the same air, seeing people live, because we'll want that authenticity that we just simply will not be able to get from AI, well, at least hopefully not in our lifetime.
Amen. I'm with you on the live events.
Yeah. I know you do a lot of speaking and stuff and a lot of interviews, and seen you on TV. And I think all that stuff it's going to come back around. I just have to believe that it will. So you have you have your entrepreneurial career, you move into the philanthropy side, you have the not-for-profit, and then you decide to go get your doctorate, and now you're becoming a professor. What was the impetus of that move?
I fell in love with Florida International University 10 years ago when I was introduced to a professor named Dr. Moses Shumo. And he and I both wanted to use cameras and digital literacies to go into the most difficult Miami communities. One of them is called Liberty City, and it is a very high percentage of African American, very high percentage of below the poverty limit, very low graduation rates with school and stuff like that. And so we wanted to put cameras in the hands of these students and get these high school students in this community paired up with college mentors. So a lot of these kids in these communities don't see themselves going to college, and that's because they've not been to college campuses. They don't come to college campuses every week to hang out and get Starbucks on the corner and have that be normalized as like the way that they want their future. So I started working and doing research with Florida International University back in 2015. I secured a big grant through a family foundation for $100,000, and we were able to buy a whole bunch of cameras, We were able to buy out the college class. So I was teaching the college classes with the students, and able to use the credibility of Florida International University. So since then, I decided to go back to get my master's degree, and going to FIU was a really natural choice. They had a great program. It was a master's degree in global strategic communications.
Mm-hmm.
So got that degree, and then I really want to, I think my natural trajectory, although I always want to be able to work for clients and run the nonprofit and donate services and give back to the community, I really would like to sort of sunset my community, my career in academia. And I was just recently offered a job, an adjunct teaching job. So that's my foot in the door on the way to a full-time faculty position. But I'm really excited, and I get to, wave the FIU flag and tell everybody I've drank the Kool-Aid, and they're just a really remarkable university that I'm so excited to be a part of.
What is it about teaching that turns you on?
Oh, I just love blowing kids' minds. Like recently I was working with a group of seniors in high school, and they were making little business commercials for their business ideas. They're their entrepreneurship plans. And I had them generate images on DALL-E 3 for the first time in their lives. They had never generated AI images. And so sitting with them and typing it into the GPT interface, OpenAI interface, and getting these kids their pictures, and they were like, whoa, like, oh my God. Like these ones had like a lizard as a theme, and we turned it into like a Godzilla advertisement. And it was so much fun what you can do with AI with kids. That's really what I want to specialize in. And I've been doing AI really heavy for the last 4 or 5 years. And I love the space. And I think there's so much room. There's so much things that colleges and universities need to adapt to have the kids engage with artificial intelligence and not be trying to work against artificial intelligence.
Yeah. I was asked to do a keynote for an insurance conference back in the wintertime in Winnipeg, and I wouldn't recommend going to Winnipeg in the wintertime, but the people were very nice. And they wanted to hear about AI's impact on the insurance industry. And I've been kind of following along and researching and listening and playing and everything with AI for probably about the same amount of time. And I shared this quote with them, and everyone nodded their head. I'm not sure that they completely understood the full meaning of it, but everyone kind of nodded along. And it was from a research report done by IBM. AI won't replace people. People who use AI will replace people. So
I like that one. I'm gonna steal that one.
Yeah, steal away. It's and my point to them was that I don't think this is a technology we can sleep on. There are certain industries that are usually laggards. The industry that I grew up in, the property casualty insurance industry, is very much a laggard on all technology. And my point to them was that while we've been able to be successful as an industry for 440 years as a technology laggard, this doesn't feel like a technology we can sleep on. Do you think that's a fair assessment?
On one hand, there's an urgency to it because, like you said, I love that AI won't replace people. People who use AI will replace people. That is so smart, because I am a big time evangelist for people just trying it. A lot of my staff, I've used it with my staff for the first times. I feel like a pioneer in the space, and it's sort of like video was back 20 years ago, like AI is feeling like video 20 years ago. So, but is AI going to change everything overnight? Not necessarily, because AI is here to stay. AI is now with us as a civilization until the end, right? In whatever form
take over and kill us all.
I'm not a pessimist like that, but I do
That
know
was a
that
joke.
I'm actually quite an optimist for
Yeah.
the sort of the utopian societies where AI can figure out how to solve all of our problems
Yeah.
without killing us.
Yeah, like Star
And
Trek.
but I think I have faith. I have faith in AI. I have faith in, my dissertation is called From Anxiety to Creativity, Factors Influencing Students' Adoption of Artificial Intelligence in US College Classrooms.
Mm.
So that's a mouthful, but it's basically like artificial intelligence meets students meets mental health.
Yeah.
And I do think there's a mental health component to AI because
Okay.
I think similar to the way people are getting really stressed out by social media, that there is a very real stress around artificial intelligence. And that's what I'm studying, as how students experience that kind of stress and anxiety, and how we can move them from a place of stress and anxiety to a place of confidence and creativity.
Where is that anxiety coming from in relation to artificial intelligence?
Well, when you're looking at college classrooms, first of all, they're afraid of getting busted for plagiarism. They're afraid of doing something their teacher doesn't want them to do. They're afraid of AI replacing them because they want to be a singer-songwriter, but now you can write a song on AI with Suno. And I did a survey one time where I gave students a piece of paper and they wrote, one thing that empowers me about AI is blank. And then on the other side, they said, one thing that gives me anxiety about AI is blank. And I really found their answers super interesting. And they've thought about it a lot. They're not sleeping on this. They have been now are being raised in the age of AI. And so they've thought about, how does this impact their capacity to make a living? What kind of jobs do they need to be studying and getting credentialed in?
Yeah. I've been working on an essay that I haven't published yet. It's taken on a life of its own, and maybe someday it'll become a book. Who knows? It's probably way too long as it is to even be an essay, but it's the working title is Art, Assets, and Artificial Intelligence. The only careers that will exist in the next 10 years. And the idea that the subtext I still don't love, but the first three is, the main concept of the article is that, or the essay, I guess, is that my interpretation or prediction is that there are certain things that AI will never be able to replace. And I actually did a interview for the podcast, which hasn't released yet, with Patrick Leonard. Patrick Leonard is a producer, music producer. He's worked with, he did 3 of Madonna's albums. He's worked with Pink Floyd. He's worked with, Leonard Cohen or Stephen Cohen, whatever. His portfolio, you have heard 24 songs that this guy has either written the song or produced the song. Incredible guy. And we were having this very conversation about AI's impact on the music industry. And he's like, I'm not taking anything away from people who are using and really diving headfirst into AI as a way of creating their art. He said, however, and this is obviously his opinion, but I tend to agree with it. He's like, if you listen to, let's take Drake, right? Drake has, I think, almost an entire album that was written, produced, and created by artificial intelligence. He certainly has multiple songs. And it sounds like him. Essentially, he put it out. So obviously he's endorsing the music. But my impression, and I'm not a big Drake fan, but I did go listen to both, is that there is a clear and distinct difference in the soul of the music between what he created himself and what was created by the AI. And so my take is that I don't know that AI will ever be able to replace what a human can create when they give themselves space to be a true artist. And then there are obviously physical assets, That could be owning buildings. It could be whatever your thing is, taking people on adventures, whatever your thing is from a physical standpoint. And everything else is going to get eaten by AI. And it's deciding which one of those buckets or which crosscut of those buckets you want to play in that ultimately becomes the decision. Because, and put like a plumber in the physical bucket space, right? Like if you want to own a plumbing franchise and be an entrepreneur and have trucks all over the place and build it out and we're going to need people to turn wrenches. We're going to need people to hammer nails, and AI is not going to be able to do a lot of those things. They may be able to help you solve the problems faster. You may have AI in your pocket to help you, if you've never worked on this type of unit before, for sure. But we're going to need people in those spaces. And, but I do think everything else, the transactional tasks, the 65-year-old guy whose job it is to take the TPS reports from this person's folder and move them over to this cabinet, like that stuff is definitely going to go away. And being aware of that feels necessary, and how we judge what skills we develop. So all that context to be said, with these students that you're working with, where are they starting? One, do you think what I just said is accurate? I guess is it?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Art, assets, and artificial intelligence is beautiful. Yeah. And I like what you said too about it's not just picking one of those buckets, but it's creating your own like Play-Doh sculpture from with all three of those materials. Yeah. The more that you can, obviously you understand insurance, you understand finance. So like assets come natural to you. And I think that I just love what you said. I'm going to repeat it one more time for the listeners. It's not AI that's going to replace people. It's people using AI that's going to replace people. And even if you just know a little bit about it, like just your little subset of, if you're into SEO, well, that's actually an area that's totally changing because of AI. So that's not even a good example, but if you can just learn, I have like somebody I really respect. Her name's Donna Vincent Roa, and she's amazing. She's been a student of mine, but she's also been a client of mine, and she's created thousands of images of women, like these heroic, like art pieces using DALL-E. Yep. They're all wearing glasses and they're all turquoise in color. And she came up with like a style, and then she started adapting the style and working with the AI to produce these images. And they've just come out and blown me away. She showed me some of them and I was like, wow, what it did stylistically and how the detail in the art, and that she used it in a beautiful kind of way to create a collection that said something about girls with eyeglasses, because she always used to get teased when she was a little girl about wearing glasses. And she's also, comes from a mixed ethnic background. So she wanted to explore different kind of ethnicity girls wearing these eyeglasses. And it's just a beautiful collection of art. Now she also wants to turn that into an NFT, which is a whole other different story. But I think if you dibble dabble and you have enough skill sets to do hobbling together some kind of specialty so that you're known as top of mind, you're known when it comes to word of mouth, people want to talk about you the same way that I want to talk about my friend Donna Vincent Roa and what she's doing with AI. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. I think if anything, what artificial intelligence will allow us to do is be even more micro niche in what we build. And, you can be the one person, who would think to create turquoise designed, female archetype, with glass, like that's such a niche kind of idea, but also at the same time, so powerful and moving that you're sharing it here with the audience. And that, while possible, think about how long, if say she was painting, one, she'd have to learn the skill of painting or drawing or whatever. And then that even if she had this incredible idea and vision for what, if she doesn't have those skills or doesn't, maybe she just doesn't, not everyone has the ability. Like I'm terrible at music. Like as much as I enjoy music, you put it, no matter how much training you give me, I can't make the thing sound good. It's just the way it is. I'm just not wired that way, which is fine. But, I could have an amazing idea for a song or whatever, without artificial intelligence, that idea dies. And, you know, I would have to go partner with someone or hire someone, et cetera. So I do think it empowers us to be these niche, even micro niche versions of ourselves and truly become the one and almost create new categories that we could have never even thought of before, are now realities. And that's just so exciting. So, you know, I guess when your students are filling out this form, which I love that exercise. I love the kind of contrarian, you know, making them use both sides of the argument for themselves. You know, where are their initial takes, and kind of where do you see the biggest movements as you start to teach them about these things and show them about prompting, and you're sitting there working with them as they're creating these images? What aspects of either their mentality, mindset, or just where they see their career going, where do you see the biggest shifts as they start to become more accustomed to and comfortable with artificial intelligence?
Well, you can either be like, you can have like a victim mentality around AI, which some of them do. It's like, well, you know, I'm 16 and I wanted to be a musician like all the musicians that came before me, and now AI is ruining that for everyone. And, you know, you have people that feel very uncomfortable, you know, students that are afraid to use it because they don't want their teachers to think they're lazy. They don't want to get some kind of reputation. They obviously don't want to get busted for plagiarism, is a really big thing. So there are things that they're scared about because they still, although they're thinking a lot about it, no one's teaching skill sets, right? Like I'm having to hobble together. I went to a program at Northwestern University. They had a program called AI for growth, and it was all about business applications for AI. And that was like four or 5 years ago. I did a certificate program through the Kellogg, but I think that everyone has to take it upon themselves, even, you know, especially, you know, ourselves, but especially our people who are educators and who are in charge of training the next generation of workers. I mean, have an obligation to show them how to use these tools and how to move, again, from anxiety to creativity, because the things that they're most excited about is like, you know, I can do things so much more faster. I feel so much more smarter because I can ask it questions. I feel like I have a friend who can give me advice about my other friends. I feel like, you know, I've never created an animation before, but I was able to create an animation. And, you know, I feel like I could make a difference in the world by using these kind of tools. And, you know, I wrote my college essay with ChatGPT and all those kind of things. So yeah, they're both excited and terrified at the same time.
I think it's funny that they have anxiety around being caught for plagiarizing. In college, I was part of a fraternity, and we had an entire closet dedicated to cheating on all the tests that all the professors gave. So that wasn't as much of cheating was more of an art form back then.
That was serious. I love that.
Having to take the test straight was anxiety inducing. You know, I needed one of those. Whoever had gotten the best grade on the test, you always you threw that notebook in the closet, or that test in the closet if you got it back, so someone could use it. That's funny. Do you think in general that this next generation that's coming up through, take the millennials out of it, you know, say maybe the generation behind them, does it seem in general like anxiety is a larger portion of their life? I mean, I remember, you know, so I'm 43. I mean, I had shit that I didn't like, but I don't remember living each day with as much kind of like it feels to me like their baseline anxiety level is just higher than it has been to previous generations. I don't want to say that they have it worse.
That's statistically proven.
Yeah.
If you look at the mental health statistics, that's definitely happening. And the largest offender of that is social media and cell phones.
Yeah.
By far. You look at like your kids, when you get, and even kids that are they don't have their cell phone yet, they're being impacted by kids that do have cell phones at very young ages. So Yeah, that's a whole other tangent that we could go on, but that's one of the things that I wanted to look at in my dissertation is the mental health side of this, and how can we go again from that kind of anxiety about learning, about growing, about trying something you've never done before, about screwing it up, about not knowing the answer, about having to go to multiple websites. Oh my god, I have to make myself an account. Oh my god, there's a word limit on the prompting. Oh my god, like there's just so I could repeat like the whole battery of anxiety. But I do think there are some people that are gonna meet this challenge head on, and they're going to teach their students. They're going to adopt their curriculums. They're going to retrain themselves as professionals. And then there's the people that aren't, and there's going to be a big pay differentiation for sure.
Yeah. So I have two boys, 10 and 8. And a couple weeks ago, I'm sure you've at least heard of it if you haven't watched the video, but the meme around fuck around and find out, I had them watch that video, or I watched the video with them. I don't, even though they're young and everyone listening can judge me, I don't, curse words to me are meaningless. They're just more words in the dictionary. So, I have no problem with them seeing that kind of stuff. But I was like, guys, like, I want you to watch this, because as much as it's been memed to death and a lot of people laugh at it, and yes, the way that he delivers it is hilarious and creative and genius. The idea that I try to impress upon them and the kids that I coach baseball and am fairly involved in that community and just the athletic community in general in my area, there's a sense, one of the things that I worry about with AI, and we can start to wrap from here, but I worry that because I've seen it in myself. So I'm not judging kids or any generation. I've seen it myself. You used to have to figure shit out, right? Like I want to do X. So when I started learning how to do video, I had no idea how to do it. I didn't have creative parents. I was a math major in college. No job that I had prior to that had any creativity in it at all. I worked in the accounting industry for 5 years, and then I moved, and then, I became part of the insurance industry. So like, there's no creativity, nothing, right, in the past. But I was a really shitty insurance salesman, like really, really shitty insurance salesman. And she's now my ex-wife, but my father-in-law at the time, he basically fired me a year into my insurance career. So my father-in-law basically pitches me a job, I think basically because he didn't want his little girl to be married to a bum. And he's like, hey, I want you to come sell insurance at my insurance company. And I said, okay. So I get a year in, and he straight fires me. He's like, look, I think you're a great kid, but this is not working. And what I did, and the audience has heard this a lot, but I'll just go through it quick. I literally got down on my knees and I begged him. I'm like, please don't make me go home to your daughter and tell her that you fired me today. I'm like, you don't want to make that call either. So yeah, I was like, let's just think about this. And he gave me an extension. He's like, I'll give you 6 more months, but things got to change. I knew I had to change. And I knew that cold calling and dropping business cards off and going to network events wasn't the answer for me, because I just didn't like it. It was a grind. And yeah, you could say, hey, you just grind through things you don't like. Yeah, but it just wasn't working. So I had to find something else. And this was like 2009. The internet is now not a fad anymore. And, YouTube is a thing. And I'm like, you know what? No one's doing video. I'm not a great writer, again, math major. So I'll just create videos on insurance. And I started posting videos in 2000, end of 10, 11 on insurance. And like, to do, how do you put a video on YouTube? I had to figure it out. How do you do video? Like, what does that mean? What does a video look like? How do you edit a video? Blah, 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 blah. Sound, microphones, all these things. It took me years of watching YouTube videos, talking to people, going to local workshops, testing. And my worry and concern about AI is that we are going to lose that fuck around and find out mentality, because the answers are always at our fingertips. And to me, I think the truly successful with this technology will use it as a foundation and an amplifier, but they'll still be that. They'll still want to test everything and touch everything and break everything and pull it apart. Because if we lose that part, I think, of what makes us human, then we lose the soul of whatever project we're working on. If that makes sense. There wasn't a question in there, but I can go on diatribes if I want. I guess. No.
I didn't have a response.
Does that make sense? I mean, how do we cultivate that? I guess as a teacher, this will be something I'm assuming that you might run into, is that, we just start over relying on it. How do we work through that? How do we continue to hold that idea in our head when, every historical fact ever is a key punch away?
Well, I think that the major lesson to learn from AI right now is it's all about the prompt, right? And the prompt is the human side of things. So it's like dancing tango with the AI. It like takes a human and it takes the AI, right? And they're sort of like doing the dance and moving together, and it's sort of cool. It's, if it's just the AI doing it all by himself, it's sort of like, meh. I think the most interesting stuff I've done on AI is when I've gotten really creative and explorative with the prompts and looked at things from multiple situations. One of my favorite things to do for my doctoral work is in all the classes, you have to read these really crazy PDFs. It's like a business degree. So I had to read these PDFs about business theory, and they were so boring. And I am a color person. I like shapes. I like photos. I like artwork. And everyone else in my class would just turn in these like dumb presentations. They'd have like a PowerPoint presentation with like no pictures, all black and white. And I was doing stuff like I would turn to an article about operational change, which is stressful, and organizational change, which is stressful for people when they get misplaced and replaced and all that kind of stuff. So I built this whole PowerPoint presentation from DALL-E about like this lava flow of like these lava fields and people transfer. I mean, it was so cool. The DALL-E said, "Do you want to try the lava effect?" I was like, "The lava effect," and so then
of course I do. Yeah.
And then it turned into all these people like diving into lava pools and committing suicide and stuff. It was very dark. And it was very funny. And I'll tell you what, my schoolmates will never, ever, ever forget the lava presentation. And I think images and video does that to you. It puts you like a head above the rest. And, I teach students, so I feel like there's always like the 90% of students that are just like, okay, they're fine. But then there's like the 10% where it's like, oh my God, I'd love to work with this kid. Oh my God, I got to hire this kid. Yeah. Oh my God, I want to mentor this kid. Like, oh my God, I want to refer this kid for a job because they're so cool. But I think students really inspire me, and the whole act of learning inspires me. And so if anything, focus on what is that dance you're doing with the AI? How are you moving together with it? In fact, the class I'm teaching is called writing for video. And I'm going to make them have a ChatGPT membership for the 4 months of the class. And I'm not going to grade them on what comes out, what's the final end product. I'm going to grade them on the whole chat. Like, what did they do to make it better? What did they input? How did they work with it? What are the opportunities they missed? Why did they not explore this? And so I'm already changing the curriculum in certain and subtle ways to use AI to show students how they can, because if you taught a class about writing for video and you didn't teach them how to use AI, that's negligence,
Yeah, I completely agree. Jessica, this has been a tremendous conversation. I love, it was great hearing your story, but this conversation about AI is so important. And I think the perspective that you have is unique in the conversation. So many people that are talking about AI are either complete nerds, which are great. I love nerds, but they're nerds, or they're like high level business people trying to sell you something. And this aspect of coming from it both as a creator and as a teacher, I think is wonderful. I think that, we need to hear more from you and other people like that have your perspective, because, these individuals that you're launching out into the world are the ones that are going to be taking care of us. So we need them to know what the fuck they're doing. And I appreciate you. Where, besides Eyes on Your Mission, which we are going to have in the show notes linked up and everything for everybody, where else can people learn more about you? Is there socials, a website? Where can they connect with you and just stay on top of what you have going on?
Eyes on Your Mission. You can see 2 Parrot Productions. Actually building a brand new site there, which is exciting. Or do I have on my? I might even have my. I'm doing a double whammy. My 2 Parrot Productions T-shirt and my Eyes on Your Mission hat.
Awesome.
I come representing the brands.
I love it. I love it. Well,
that was one of my favorite ones you did about the. Making a brand so cool they have to work with you.
Yes. Yeah. Well, John Davids is a genius when it comes to that stuff. And he's worked with some of the biggest brands and some of the biggest creators. And I think that's what it is, right? And to your point, you cannot create a brand that people truly connect to at a real soul level unless they can see it, and it has to come with video. So I love what you're doing. I appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your time, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.
Let's go. Yeah.
Every week, we share the ideas, stories, and insights of elite performers that you can use in your business and life. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching, and leave a comment on YouTube to keep the conversation going. This is the way.